At halfback, we've got Stead presenting.
Siren!
That's it. Greensborough are the premiers for 2014. A comprehensive 41-point victory over Heidelberg. They win in the end 13-14-92 to Heidelberg 6-5-51 at the Preston City Oval.
We are joined now by Northcote Park new playing coach Harmit Singh. Harmit, welcome to, I guess, the Northern Football League. It's been a busy off-season for Northcote Park. You've obviously come on board, and there's a few, I guess, key signings that the club's been able to bring in the summer months.
Yeah, thank you. It's obviously great to have a change and be at Northcote Park, and I guess the season launch is probably my first official engagement, I guess, as a senior coach at Northcote, and yeah, obviously excited to be here, and glad to have a couple of mates come along the way with me, and hopefully, yeah, we can have a good year.
Well, I guess just today, Harmit, you've obviously come across from the Morwell Football Club, two-time premiership coach there, playing coach, and you've brought along now Tarkin Lockyer, obviously someone well known within AFL ranks, 227 games for the Collingwood Football Club. He'll be down at Northcote Park when available. Obviously 35, but still quite a handy player. Great to have on your playing list.
Yeah, he's 35, but he says he's still a better runner than me, and yeah, look, he's in tremendous shape, and I think given when he retired post 2010, the grand final, he had 2 years off, so he is quite fresh, and yeah, great get for us to have at the footy club a little bit more experience, and just a really solid citizen who a great role model for our players. I think they can all look up to someone like that.
We are now joined by Hurstbridge playing coach Michael Ryan. Michael, congratulations, I guess, first off on your appointment as Hurstbridge coach. It's been a huge off-season for the club, certainly coming along leaps and bounds since you first started up.
Geez, Sam, yeah, it's been a very productive off-season with the guys I've been fortunate enough to bring into the club. Some really good blokes and also good footballers on top of that. And
obviously, you're an experienced player yourself, a premiership at Lowell, plenty of premiership at Bundoora, but some of the names you've brought in, premiership players from Division 1, Braden Shaw, Michael Farrelly, the list goes on. It's a really exciting time for Hurstbridge with some good youngsters coming through as well.
Yeah, those guys bring a wealth of experience to the club, and they've been fantastic to the younger group. I think on the weekend we played 8 under-19s along with those sort of guys, and Braden, Michael Farrelly, John Cruiser, Jared Tilley, they've just really complemented what we've brought in, what we've been able to bring to the junior program into the senior club, and with their experience and their direction on field and just the leadership and the way they train and conduct themselves, you can just tell it's rubbing off on such a young group already.
Now joined by NFL Match of the Day commentators Tom Flanagan and Jordan Canellis. Guys, obviously the season's been launched. It's a massive year coming up in the Northern Football League. We talked about it on stage, but first off in Division 3, plenty of change. Epping comes down, first side ever relegated 2 years in succession. Banyule, the new boys. South Morang recruited well. Reservoirs topped up as well, and you've got the emerging sides in Watsonia, St Mary's and Heidelberg West. Tom, I'll start with you. How do you see at this early stage the season potentially panning out?
Well, it's really exciting, and it's tough to call as well. I mean, there's plenty of sides that could be a contender for the Division 3 premiership this year. You look towards the bottom end of the table, and you know St Mary's and Heidelberg West, they've been on the improve for the last couple of years. Watsonia also, you know, they're always in the mix. You feel they played in the grand final, lost by a point a couple of years ago, and then you've got that top four that we spoke about earlier. With you feel like Banyule's going to be in there, coming across from the VAFA. They feel like they'll be competitive straight away, and then you've got the three sides: Epping, who's come down 2 divisions in 2 years, and then Reservoir and South Morang, who were strong last year as well, and look to have improved once again. So it's going to be really interesting this year.
Jordan, on South Morang, I mean, they've been one of the talking points this year, certainly. Picked up some pretty good players. How do you think they'll blend in with, I guess, the youth of the side last year? Obviously, you know, Jake Potter winning a best and fairest at 19 years old showed how young they were, but some pretty handy names that many in the Northern Football League know a lot about are joining the Lions.
Absolutely, yeah. Paul Harrison and Wayne Pavitt make their way over to South Morang, so that's going to add a lot of much-needed experience. They did really well last year, South Morang, for a young team. As you said, Potter there winning the best and fairest, but also the Buckley boys, who are probably the cornerstone of that side last year. It was just, as we got towards the end of the season, South Morang probably tired out a little bit because they were so young, but this time around now, with the experience of Harrison and Pavitt coming in, they'll definitely be premiership contenders.
In Division 2, I think we're equally blessed with a competitive competition. I mean, we talked on stage about the improvement we expect from Hurstbridge, Thomastown to be really competitive coming up. We know Diamond Creek and Panton Hill missed the finals last year, but both have new coaches this year, both looking to improve further. But in that top 4 last year, Mernda, Fitzroy Stars, Laylaw, they'll look to improve. They're only 2 spots in the grand final end of the year. And of course, Whittlesea comes back, who won a premiership in their first year back in Division 2 2 years ago. There's going to be a logjam at the top.
Again, just like Division 3, it's going to be really even in the Division 2 competition. You look at a side like Whittlesea, who won the premiership a couple of years ago, and we'll be looking to do that again. Fitzroy Stars, they were outstanding last year, and they bring in Daniel Francis and they bring back Peter Hood, who was really impressive for them a couple of years ago, and you feel like they're going to be really strong once again. Mernda and Layla, again, consistency has been their problem in the last couple of years, but if they can get it all together, they've got pretty strong best 22s as well. And in that bottom end, Panton Hill, they were really comfortable in their first season in the Division 2 competition. Thomastown coming up from Division 3, as we mentioned earlier, streets ahead of everyone else in Division 3. So it should be really tight but between a lot of sides. You could see, only a couple of games separating first and sixth.
Last year, Division 2 was the 4th most even senior competition in all of the 23 senior comps in Melbourne. This year we're getting improvement from below, but some of the names coming into the competition as well this year. At Laylaw, Harley Ryan joins the competition. At Hurstbridge, Michael Farrelly, Braden Shaw, players we've talked plenty about. But Hurstbridge, I mean, they've avoided relegation just probably 3 years in a row. Last year, they won 3 games at the back end, but were staring down the barrel for a while. They'd have to be a genuine finals contender this year, no doubt about it.
You'd think so, yeah. I think the recruiting they've done in the off-season really makes them a big finals contender. And as you said, they've been languishing around the bottom 2 or 3 places on Division 2 for the last few years. But, I mean, just by way of their recruits, you'd have to say they're a massive finals chance this year. Braden Shaw coming in, Mick Farrelly coming in, a whole bunch of others from Division 1 who are coming down now. So Hurstbridge definitely will be on the rise, but there's going to be plenty of competition around that part of the table. I think Thomastown, like Tom said, coming up from Division 3, they were so far ahead of Division 3 that you'd say they're going to be a massive contender in Divi 2 now.
I'll ask you one. Whittlesea's lost a few players. Roy Dyson, Lucas Hobbs, just to throw a few in the mix. Also, Jeremy Page and Mitch Scollard. Can they go down and play off in the grand final or win a premiership first up?
It's going to be tough to say. I don't think in the past we've seen that the teams relegated from Div 1 have come down and have dominated Division 2. I don't know if it's going to be that clear cut this year because there's a lot of leaders that have been left out of this Whittlesea team that have gone. As you say, Dyson, Page has gone, a whole bunch of other players, Lucas Hobbs off to Division 1. So I think that probably drops Whittlesea a little bit back into the pack now, and they probably even up a bit more with the other teams at the top end of Division 2. So I don't think just because they've come down from Division 1 that they're going to be automatic premiership contenders. I think it's a lot more even than that. So it's a bit ambiguous if Whittlesea can win the flag this year. I'm not quite confident, but it'll be tight competition.
I feel like Whittlesea's, if they are to win the premiership, we'll find out very early in the year whether they're going to be able to hold up against the likes of Hurstbridge and Fitzroy Stars, who it seems like at this stage they're pretty well rounded, both of their best 22s, but we're still not sure about Whittlesea losing 4 of their 5 best players.
And we talk about even competitions. Division 1, the most even senior football competition in Melbourne last year out of 23 competition. Amazing achievement, and by a fair margin has to be said as well. This year we looked at the sides who didn't make the finals, and obviously North Heidelberg weren't there. They come in very dominant last year. And then you look at the likes of Eltham, recruited well, Braden Taglieri, Anton Woods. Northcote Park, obviously the news today of Tarkin Lockyer joining them, a lot of VFL listed players. Lower Plenty's picked up a host of really good players. Picked up a good ruckman from in country Victoria. Also got Heath Ayres, Darcy Barden's back into full fitness. Matthew Vasilevsky, Doug Morris joins in there. West Preston, David Roden comes in. Plenty to like about those sides who were missed out in finals last year and are looking to push in this year. It's going to be a very, very tough race, and I reckon early wins is just so crucial this year. You don't want to be chasing your tail or chasing others, with 3 or 4 rounds to go. It probably just won't happen.
Yeah, look, it's a lot of these teams now that just missed out on finals last year. West Preston only missed out by 2 points, given they had the draw last year. So they've recruited heavily, but I think there's a lot of promise for these teams that just missed out in the finals and only just scraped into the finals, that middle part of the table. But equally, I think because the Division 1 competition is so tight this year and it's so hard to predict who's going to be in the top 5 and who's going to miss out, we might even see one of the biggest sides potentially in a relegation battle. I wouldn't be surprised at all if we see, a team that we now are tipping for the finals suddenly finding themselves in a relegation battle later on.
Probably 12 months ago, we were tipping Northcote Park as a premiership contender for last year. They finished 8th with, I think it was 7 wins. So a lot can change, and your form has to be off just slightly, and you'll lose games in this comp to any team in the competition. Tom, Bundoora and Montmorency, we talked about it on stage, going through regeneration. Can they contend as they have in past years and really be a side sides at the top end of the table, or do you see them sliding this year, having lost combined players of the calibre of Cameron Cloak, Ryan Jackson and Harley Ryan, the list goes on between them both. Have brought in a lot of good youngsters, it has to be said, but can they cover the amount of players they have lost?
I think it will be tough. I think in the short term it's going to be difficult for those sides to get up to the top of the ladder with the strength in the top 3 or 4 sides that we have at the moment. However, you feel like that the opportunities that the young fellas are going to get in that senior side are going to really help the Bulls and Mont going forward. Those players have to develop for the next generation of Mont and Bundoora premierships in the future. So that's the main thing for the Bulls and Mont. Just blood those kids and give them plenty of games, and they'll get their confidence, and then they'll be back up the top again.
I think that gives those two sides a reassurance as well, because last year we saw guys like Ned McEwen from Bundoora who came up and played well in his first couple of games, but also Montmorency. They've got a lot of good young players. Exactly, yeah, Jake Kalange, the class Lamana. They're all really good young players, and they've had that system now for a couple of years where they've brought players up from the unders and the seconds. And I think Montmorency, even though they've lost a couple of players, and it might not be this year that these young players come in and really set the world on fire, but I think in the next couple of years, if these guys stick around, they'll definitely make for a good team.
And the top 3 sides from last year have look even stronger for mine this year. I know Greensborough's lost Tim Bongetti, but very well-rounded side. Won finals without him last year, despite him leading the club's goal kicking. Heidelberg's brought in Daniel Archer, great acquisition there, plus a couple of others who I like the look of Heidelberg. I think they're at the right age bracket. They've got a good mix of key defenders with Kennedy down back and a few others as well. Obviously, Cosgriff as well, part of the NFL rep side. Their forward line looks really dangerous now. Sargent, Trelaw, and also Archer, potentially Will Knight, who's playing Collingwood VFL at the moment, nipping at their feet. So, a lot to like. And then McLeod, all the talk. You talk to most Division 1 coaches, they're telling you McLeod's the favourite for the flag this year. And if you said that 2 years ago, you wouldn't have believed it. They've come a long way under Gary Ramsey. They've brought in Lucas Hobbs. We believe James McLean-Brunton, a few others there as well. Those 3 for mine, I know a lot have improved from underneath, but I think those 3 for mine are still probably the standouts.
Yeah, look, it sounds like we're sitting on the fence a bit because they were the top 3 teams last year in the finals, but I mean, the mark of a good side is being able to maintain and retain your team from last year and also build upon it, and that's what these 3 teams have done. And I think with Heidelberg bringing Daniel Archer in, that just completes the Heidelberg team. The thing they were probably lacking last year was a big key forward. They had the Sol Caddy and the Nolan boys up front over the last couple of years. They've gone now, and now they've finally brought someone in Daniel Archer, who I think is going to be, look, I'm going to go out on a limb. I think he's going to be the recruit of the season. Probably, I reckon he might, win the leading goal kicker award. So I think he's going to be huge for them this year.
Well, you put the pressure on him there. I'm going to ask you boys quickly, I'll put you on the spot for a prediction in each division, who you think the 3 premiers might be, and I'm sure in 6 months' time this will be replayed to us when we get it heaps wrong. But Tom, Division 3, Division 2, Division 1, who are your predictions?
South Morang, Fitzroy Stars and Greensborough, again.
I'm going to say South Morang, Fitzroy Stars, and it's a tight one between Heidelberg and McLeod, but I might go just Heidelberg.
Well, I'm going to be much in a similar vein. I think in Division 3, South Morang, plenty to like early. I know it's only, still in March, but I think with the additions they've brought in, plenty of goal kickers there. I think they have what it takes to step up from a prelim to a grand final, and I guess on the day, if they can produce the goods, long way away, of course. I think in Division 2, the Fitzroy Stars deserve to be the favourites. Played in 2 grand finals, brought in Daniel Francis, great goal kicker. The supply he'll get will be huge. Obviously, we know the talent of their midfield, so I'm going to tip them as my favourite. And at this stage, I do like what Heidelberg's doing. So again, I think in 6 months this will be played to us again, and we might be well wrong. But it's going to be a tough year. We're expecting 3 really even senior competitions, and guys, we look forward to calling it all. Of course, you can tune in every Saturday, 88.6 Plenty Valley FM, and hear the call of the NFL match of the day. Thanks, guys.
No worries. Thanks, Sam.